Some say that hanging your beef ribs over the coals in direct cooking on a meat hook is one of the best ways to pack maximum flavor. Today, we're going to find out if that's true. Let's get started. Hey, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue, and today I'm answering a question that some of you guys have asked, which is, James, have you ever tried meat hooks inside of your Kamado Joe? And so answer to that is no. So I went ahead and ordered some 10-inch meat hooks off of Amazon that butchers use for hanging, aging meat, etc. And today the game plan is we're going to position that hook right off the top of our control tower vent and hang some beef ribs over the direct coals. We're going to smoke them with some cherry wood for about 4 to 6 hours until that bark looks really great. We're going to wrap them to finish our cook, and then we're going to turn these beef ribs into some poor man's burnt ends at the end of the day. So let's get ready and fire up our grill. So I'm going to start with a completely empty charcoal basket on the Kamado Joe Big Joe 3. And I'm going to place 2 pieces of cherry wood for our smoke right on the bottom, and we're going to cover some charcoal on top. Now, one of the things I wanted to be mindful of is I don't want to build the fire too high because our beef rib is going to be hanging fairly close. And so I was debating the method here, whether we try a bit of a minion around the outside or if I use the basket from the Joe Jr. to try and contain that charcoal. But I think the winning game plan we're going to go with today is just to go ahead and make a little mound without piling up too high right here in the center of our Big Joe. So I'll take you fast forward while we place these on the bottom and bury them with some fresh big block. That looks good. Let's go ahead and fire it up. So I would like to use the torch until I start to see some of the coals ash over white. That way I know we're getting good, clean combustion. So we'll just go ahead now and close our dome and leave our bottom vent open and our top vent open until we start to feel some heat in the dome past the hand test. And I'm looking for about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so our beef rib I've already salt brined, and then I actually vacuum sealed this until I wanted to use it for a cook like today. So since this already has some salt, and you can see it's a deeper red color than it would be if it was brought home fresh, I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit of a binder on. I like to use Truff hot sauce, but yellow mustard or anything like that will work. And I actually want to do some sweet heat. So I'm gonna hit this with a beaver rub. It's in all the stores here in Canada, and it's got a lot of kick to it. But if you were going to build your own, I would do some jalapeno powder, some garlic powder, onion powder, and then hit it with a good dose of cayenne powder in order to make your own rub. So let's get some of our truff sauce on for a binder. We'll get our rub, meter probe in, as well as our meat hook. So this is about a 10-inch size, which I've measured is just going to fit perfectly off of our control tower top. So I'll take you fast forward while we get this ready. Our grill is up to temperature, so let me bring you close and show you how we're going to hang this meat hook off of the control tower top. Since we're charting some new territory, I'm going to be using the meter probe to log today's cook so I can keep track of the internal temperature of our beef rib as well as the Joe. Now, beef, when we get to something like brisket or how I would cook beef ribs, becomes fall apart tender, and I don't want to cook it on the hook to that stage, as I suspect it will just break apart and fall into the fire. And so we're going to take this somewhere between that 160 to 180 range. If you've seen some of my videos before, I like taking our beef in a Kamado style cooker to 180 because the bark just doesn't set as well at 160 like it might if you were using a 500 to 1,000 gallon offset smoker, which is moving a ton of air. But if we are starting to look really, really tender around that 160 range, I'll go ahead, we'll pull out the hook, install a grid, and finish this in the Texas crutch. Easy for me to say. So I'll bring the camera nice and close. Let's hang our beef ribs. Position there. Come up and around, right through our control tower top. So now we've got our beef rib hanging, meter probe installed. Let's close that back up and adjust our vent back to where we had it. So that's it. We're all set. We've got our meter probe keeping an eye on things. So now we just get to hang. Sometimes when you're a dad, the jokes write themselves. Hang out, hang our meat for a couple hours, and we'll check in about the 2-hour mark to see if we need to spray to protect that bottom. Naturally, I think you would suspect that heat source coming up directly from the coals might start to burn the bottom, which is why I put the fattier end of our beef rib hanging down towards those coals and that point end right up towards the top. But if it's like a drum smoker, this air is moving very quickly towards the negative pressure zone of the top of our control tower top, and the theory says should cook very evenly. So I'll see you in a couple hours when it's time to do a quick update. All right, it's been 4 hours and we've had to do absolutely nothing. I checked it a couple times and this beef rib looked fantastic. And so it's actually looking so good. I think I might turn this into beef rib burnt ends. Poor man's burnt ends. Beef rib is just like brisket in that sense, and it makes an amazing burnt end. So why don't we go ahead, get this off of the heat. We'll cube it up, put it in some foil with a little bit of braising liquid, and we'll use that to cook it the rest of the way through until they're probe tender. Bring the camera close so you don't miss any of the action. All right, our burnt ends now have been on the grill in foil for about an hour, and that's about the spot where I think we should check them, because in general, I find we gain about 20 degrees Fahrenheit for every hour that we're in foil in the crutch. So since we pulled these off at 180, I'm guessing we should be right around 200. If we are, we're gonna go ahead and just open that foil, maybe add a little bit more sauce, and just let that tack up for another 10-15 minutes, and we're done. Let's go take a look. Okay, I don't know if you can see in there, we still have some coal left, so that gives you a good idea. We just barely had enough to cover those 2 pieces of cherry wood, and this has now gone on for about 6, nearly 7 hours, and there's still enough coal there, I think, to give us another hour or so if we needed it. So we don't need to overfill our charcoal basket. Let's take a look. Oh, smells are good. Smells are good. Let's check out temperature here. Oh, that feels tender even if we don't have the temperature. It's saying 180s, but I might be in a thin spot. Let's go ahead and check a few others. So 213. Right around 200. These are feeling really good no matter what the probe says. Right around 200. So I think we are there. Let's go ahead and I'll just add a little bit more sauce. We're gonna leave these open now in a boat. Shout out to my friends from Huddy's, sent me this sauce to try. They're local to me. Just love little plugs for small business like that. So let's go ahead and just add a little bit more. This is the same sauce that I added originally. And I'll just put a bit more in here just so I can mix it in. Let that tack up. Maybe 10-15 more minutes. Okay, our burnt ends have had 10 minutes for that sauce to tack up, and they are looking incredible. So I think it is time to go for the taste test. Let's open it up, grab one, and do a taste test. Ooh, got the pick of the litter here. Found one with my name on it. Let this cool for a second. Let's go ahead and see if this tastes like a burnt end. That is the best non-brisket burnt end I think I've ever done. Is it really because of the method with our meat hook? I'm not so sure, but that is spectacular. So I've definitely got the great bark. Well, the only disadvantage of doing it this way is that we get the bark on the outside, and then we cube it up after we don't have that bark surface. So the disadvantage is we couldn't cube it up ahead of time and get nice even bark all the way around, which is something that you can do if you want to cook them that way from the get-go. They also cook a little bit quicker. But that piece that I did get with the bark was fantastic, and the tenderness all the way through This is where I think you make up some of that ground, because you get that just moisture retention is there, and they're just like little flavor bombs. I'm gonna try one more, one sec, just to make sure it wasn't a one-off thing. Go ahead for a nice little end piece here, just to make sure, you know, you're gonna recommend it, you need to make sure it's good. It's good. I think that one's better. That was fantastic. So now that we know the meat hook method works on a Kamado Joe, is there anything else you want to see us hang? I don't know if we have the vertical height or not to be able to pull off a rack of ribs. Maybe we could do a chicken, a tomahawk. Let me know in the comments down below if there's something else you'd like to see us cook on a meat hanger inside of our Kamado Joe. That just is about it for today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, please let YouTube know by smashing that thumbs up button, and let me know by hitting subscribe to catch future videos. Until next time, I'm James from SoCadad Barbecue signing off, and remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.